Q&A with Whitey. Lovely to have you all with us. We've got quite an audience today, so thank you everyone for joining. It's lovely to have you. Now, first order of the day. Make sure you got your coffee ready to sit back and relax. And I tell you what, certainly smells good, and it certainly ain't the first one for the day. Got to have your coffee. And of course, make sure you got some morning tea. You want to kick back and relax, doing it healthy, getting into some nuts and cheese, and somebody's been into my strawberries. Okay, I'll put my hand up, it was me. Got a bit munchy before. Have some morning tea, relax, get ready with a coffee, and enjoy today's conversation. It's going to be an absolute ripper. But before we get into that, we better say thank you to our sponsors who support us in significant ways to be able to bring you all of this style of content and professional development days, which we're doing free, face-to-face. We were in Sydney yesterday. Over 170 people joined us there, and I think we were around 50 or 60, whatever it was, up in Newcastle the day before. So great being face-to-face again. So make sure you keep an eye open for our professional development summits and come along. But of course, thank you to our sponsors. And we better make mention of ALI, Bluestone, Finstro, Prosper, Heartland, Suncorp Bank, best bank on the planet. They are the people that support us with our mental health initiatives. And a very important note just on that, don't forget we have our confidential counselling program, CCP. It's supported by Suncorp for FBAA members and your family. So if any of you are feeling stressed, anxious, or dealing with anxieties and also depression, or you need some financial counselling, get on to our confidential counselling program. It's professionally run independently by a group called Assured. They are experts, professionals in an area. Neither Suncorp or the FBAA get any details as to what's going on. The only thing we get is how many people have used the services, because you get 4 free ones. But as you know, nothing's free in this world. We're paying at this end. So they'll be us giving us some numbers to pay the bill. And that's perfectly fine. That's what it's for. So remember, if you need some professional counselling to deal with depression, anxieties, financial hardship or stresses you're going through, get onto our confidential counselling program with Assured. Details are on the FBAA website, proudly supported by Suncorp Bank and of course the FBAA. So don't forget it, it's free for you and your family. Of course, the other sponsors that are supporting us are On Deck, Pepper Money, Strive Financial, AAMC, Credit Fix Solutions, and Trail Book Loans. All wonderful, wonderful and lovely people. Make sure you do your best to write business with them and check out their websites. Alrighty, let's start today's conversation. And my special guest today is Christian Stevenson, who's a Senior Credit Advisor with Shore Financial. And we're going to have a very cool conversation with Christian. We've got a bunch of questions to answer. He's going to talk to us about how you lodge $500 million in loan applications each year. We're going to talk around mental health, how to operate your business efficiently and effectively, and excuse me, make it all very enjoyable. So Christian, welcome. Excuse me. You're there, Christian. There he is. Hey, mate, how you going?
Good, good. How you going?
Very well. Thanks so much for joining us. I shouldn't have snuck a bit of morning tea a bit earlier. It got caught in the throat. That's always a pain in the neck. But mate, thanks so much for joining us. It's lovely to have you with us. And I'm really looking forward to talking about those points we've got there to have a chat through, and also dumping into the questions that we've got. I think people hearing from yourself as one of their colleagues and peers in the industry, it will make for a really stimulating conversation. But before we do that, what I'd really like to know is a bit more about you. Forget the broking hat, throw that to one side for a moment. Give us the Christian Stevens story. How long you've been in the game? What did you start doing when you first went into the workforce, and how did you wind up here?
I actually, before this, I was a nightclub promoter for about 10 years. Obviously a very different industry. And I was sitting next to Theo Chambers, who's the CEO of Shore Financial, at the next birthday lunch, and he offered for me to come work at Shore. I actually had no idea what mortgage broker did or had any idea really. First couple of years, as you know, were pretty tough, but it's turned out probably to be the best decision I've ever made.
Yeah, very good. So how long have you been in the industry now?
It's coming up to 6 years in September. For the first 2 years, I was doing a bit more packaging stuff for other brokers. I wasn't really involved. I guess you'd call me a bit of a part-time broker. So I really think I've been doing it for about 4 years properly. And I guess it's one of those things that, you know, the more you put in, the more you get back from it. So, or as well, obviously helps. I've got a great bunch of guys here that all kind of help each other out. Probably couldn't have done it if I got out and done it on my own. The motivation probably wouldn't have been there to punch through the first couple of years when it's really hard. But yeah, I'm very happy that I took the plunge because it's turned out to be pretty good.
Excellent. And mate, tell me, what does Kristen do to relax away from the office and away from brokering? What feels
I watch a lot of television. Don't mind my Netflix and Stan. Got a beautiful fiance. We go away on weekends a lot. Try and get away, you know, anywhere just to spend some time together. Because I work pretty long hours during the week, so my weekends are kind of time I've got to spend any real time with her. I've also got my pilot's license, helicopter pilot's license, which I did when I finished nightclub and started mortgage broking. I wouldn't say depressed, but it was very, very different working environment. And you know, going from running nightclubs to being out partying and having fun all the time, being in an office 9 to 5 was a big shock. But I needed something to apply myself on weekends to make sure I wasn't going out or slipping back into old habits. Yeah, I do that regularly, which is fantastic. Purely for myself, I don't really take anything up or anything like that. It's just a bit of a release. And apart from that, not a lot, bit of reading here and there. Love to sleep. Watch TV.
Mate, I would really love to drill your life in nightclubs, but I think I'll let that one go for the moment. But mate, I love that bit of background. You got pilot's license. I actually got my pilot's license before I could drive a car, and I always had aspirations of being a commercial pilot. And my best buddy, who,
fixed helicopter. Yeah.
No, fixed. So I learned on a Piper Cherokee and spent a lot of time in a Cessna 150 Aerobat doing aerobatics out at Bankstown. And this is when I was, you know, late school years, and wound up having a spinal fusion, which sort of nailed. Actually, I couldn't sit for 6 months, so I just never got back to it, and wound up in banking, and here I stay. So my buddy who I was doing it with wound up as a commercial pilot with Emirates, and he wound up being based out of Dubai. He's now retired. I probably should have followed that gig because I'm still working. Anyhow, such is life. That's very cool. There's nothing like you're flying fixed wings, is that right?
No, helicopter actually.
Oh, yeah, helicopter. Oh, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had.
Sorry,
go on.
It's just a slight delay. So every time I go to start talking, you start talking. Yeah, I just wanted to do helicopter because I think the idea of being able to land wherever you want and take off from wherever you want was a little bit more attractive. It's actually only a 10-hour crossover to do my fixed wing license now if I want to do that. So I might do it in the future if I can find some time.
Nice. We had a past state president in New South Wales who had his helicopter license, and I vividly remember us going out to Orange for a PD day, and he flew us out there by the chopper. It was very cool. Very cool indeed. All right, let's jump into today's conversation. Now we've learned a little bit about you. So, yeah, one of the subjects you talk around is how to lodge $500 million in loan applications each year. Tell us a bit more about what that is.
I guess when you start out as a broker, you've got to lodge applications, you've got to do the tracking. There's actually a lot of work required on each transaction, and especially as you start to get really busy, you've got 5, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 clients at any one time. It's a bit of a logistical nightmare if you don't have a process. So I've spent the last couple of years really drumming down on how to develop a really streamlined process that allows me to take on basically as many clients as I want and not have any delays, whether it's upfront or ongoing. And the way that I've done that is I've got two sides to the business. So I've got the packaging side. So once the clients come to me, we have an initial conversation, they send me their documents that we need. I will then send all of those documents through to my packaging team and let them know, look, it's a bridging loan. These are the 4 lenders we want, or, it's a guarantor loan. These are the 4 lenders we want, or we're 95% inclusive, etc. Then they will put the proposal together, do all the estimated costs. They'll do the, refinancing tables. They'll do product comparisons, everything else, and then send them back. Because those proposals take 3 or 4 hours. They're quite detailed, and the reason why they're detailed is over the years I've worked out, there's certain, questions that clients regularly ask, information I should be providing, and I find that if I give too much information, they don't ask too many questions. So it's taken me a couple of years, I guess, to nail down those proposals, but they're very detailed. It also gives the client a level of confidence knowing, that you know what you're doing. You now put in the proposals, the bank SLAs as well, just to make sure that everyone's aware of what's going on, the client's expectations are managed. And then once that proposal comes back and they're happy to proceed, I then or the packaging team will then send those master notes across to the processing team. They'll get the application documents ready, send them to the client, and then once the client signs them, they'll launch it and they can track it. So they're doing very specific tasks on each end.
So it sounds like it's, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like it's very system and process driven. Is that correct?
Of course, yeah. It's very hard to manage so many clients if you don't have a good system and good process. It's almost impossible, especially with things outside your control like SLAs and discharge authority, stuff like that you need to send, which could take weeks and months to get processed. At the end of the day, it's always your fault. So unless you're across everything, it's very easy for the client then to take that out on you if you've forgotten to do something.
Yeah, and does it take a large team behind you to make that happen? And if so, what sort of size team is it that's working with you to make those processes
which I've worked out. So each packaging person can do about 35 new clients a month. And that, when I say 35 clients, it's doing their packaging, doing reworks. They'll come back to you asking, can you send me a proposal at 85%, 90, etc. So they can do about ish clients a month. So I've got 3 girls full-time on the packaging team, so they can do, I have to put a 4th one. So I'm trying to do about 150 proposals a month.
Wow.
Including reworks. And what that means is it allows me to take on new referring partners, new business, and kind of always have that 48-hour turnaround time from proposals. If it's taking any longer than that, the client's having to call you and say, where's my proposal, how it's going, how's it all going? It just doesn't really start the relationship off on a good foot. You want the clients coming back to you saying, that's really fast, thank you, those proposals are really in depth, really appreciate the effort you've gone to doing those. It just makes things a lot easier.
Yeah.
Going outside the kind of 48-hour turnaround times, it's like the SLAs at the bank. If they go outside a week, you get shits, obviously, and it's the same as the clients. The clients are not going to be happy if you take time to taking a week or 2 to get a basic proposal back to them. It'll give them a lot of confidence as you as well.
Yeah, and with that size of volume, and we'll talk about SLAs a bit later, but we know the pain that creates for everyone. I mean, the borrowers get upset, you get upset. That must put enormous amounts of stress and strain on yourselves and your staff. How do you deal with the mental health side of that? How do you manage that stress? Because it'd be phenomenal.
This job is really stressful. I had a lot more when I started, but look, it's just very stressful. There's a lot of stuff outside your control. The bank SLAs, clients signing things correctly. It can be stressful. Clients are emotionally charged. They're selling, buying property. There's a lot of little 1% involved to make sure the results 100. Manage it, I guess. The thing about managing that many clients is just having a really, really nailed down process. And also just managing expectations. So, all brokers have the bank SLA spreadsheet to understand how things are taking. If you're telling your clients how long the turnaround times are, you can't blame yourself if the clients come back to you upset that this is taking too long. So as I said before, in our proposals now, I'm putting at the bottom, it's just a little bit more information about each one of the banks and how long they're taking as a turnaround time, just so the clients are on the same page with us and aren't going to get upset when it's taking a week, 2 weeks and that sort of thing. But, I'm pretty confident in our proposals, so not a lot would change from me lodging a proposal to the bank, picking up my proposal and approving it, unless the client's live, bankrupt or something like that. But, very rarely do we get a decline or something like that, unless the client hasn't been upfront with information to us.
Yeah. So with that management of expectations and the process, do you find that, well, sorry, let me rephrase it. Is it largely technology driven? Is it personal interaction driven? So people on the phones, is it a mixture of both? What creates that right level of connectivity with the client so that those expectations are well managed? Because it doesn't matter what you say up front, they only hear what they want to hear half the time. So you sort of got to balance that off too. But how do you drive that? Is it just the fact that it's people on the phones? Is it technology as well? Is it a mixture? How does that flow?
It's probably a mixture. Australians love a bit of face-to-face human contact still. So obviously there's a bit of tech marketing automation there that helps with a bit of the correspondence back and forth. But the reality is, if your client hasn't heard from you for 2 weeks and they understand the SLA is still 2 weeks, just pick the phone up halfway through and say, hey, Pete, we haven't heard back. Just want to give you an update. We probably should hear back on the, you've already told them this information, but just relaying it again so they understand that you haven't forgotten about them. It's a quick, even a text message, it takes 1 minute, a quick phone call, and they appreciate the effort you've gone just to shoot them an email or a text or give them a call. But, it's just basic touch points. So it's the same as with your own team. If you don't hear, you've got to have your daily meetings, you've got to have daily contact, communication. Communication's key, whether it's to the client or whether it's from, within your own team. If everyone's on the same page, then no one's really going to get upset.
So it obviously, and there'll be many people listening today who are saying, well, I just don't have a team. But you obviously started at some point in that environment where it was just you and no team. What was that journey like to sort of, was there like a quantum leap that said, I'm doing this on my own, now all of a sudden, oh geez, I've got to have 1, 2 people behind me? Was it gradual or did it have big steps? What was that like?
I realised very early on that I'm not an admin person. I'd much prefer to be out seeing clients, generating business, being more of a BDM.
I got the same problem.
So I guess there is a turning point when you're doing, if you're doing enough applications that you're busy full time, but you're struggling to get out of the office to find new business, that's probably the point where you need to put someone on. And, at a cost of around $2,500 a month for a full-time offshore person, that it frees up, 50% of your time to go out and get new business, it actually pays for itself. So, you don't have to settle a lot more business. You have to settle one deal or half a deal, depending on how big your loan size is, to pay a month to pay for that person. So, most of my staff are offshore. I can get 4 staff for the price of 1 here. It's purely just and the work quality is fantastic. It's not as though it's any less, the quality isn't there that it would be there from onshore stuff. So it just enables you to free up some time. And also back to the mental health thing, having the extra staff allows you to have a bit more time to yourself. Like if you've got a family or you've got a or you're doing anything outside of work, like I work obviously very long hours during the week, but you've got to have some time to yourself. You've got to have weekends. You've got to be doing stuff outside of your work. Otherwise, it's going to go insane. And this job can be quite consuming, especially if you're not good at delegating jobs. And I think understanding that the back office team is not going to be as good as you is important as well. It's an extension of your own service, but the reality is you're still managing those staff and those client expectations yourself. It's just freeing you up time to do the things that
Yeah, and that time for yourself is so critically important. I know I went through periods in my career before I stepped in full time with the FBAA, and I was doing my own brokering and other work. That you wind up working 7 days a week, 1 o'clock in the mornings, this stupid stuff. And that's just a good way to put a bullet to your head. It just doesn't work. So you got to find that time to relax.
People overwork they'll work, as you said, 6-7 days a week, when in reality they could hire a back office staff and actually be doing bigger numbers, working 5 days a week. So yes, it might be take the leap, but I think having this spare time actually enables you to generate more business anymore.
Yeah. And there was no offshoring of administration functions when I was a broker, unfortunately, so it was a different set of maths. But it's just on that point though, two things. Where did you find the people to do the offshoring? And two, how did you go through COVID? Because a lot of people who were offshoring stuff through COVID had some difficulties. Did that play out okay, or?
Well, I was originally using Xsource, so I'm good mates with Dalibor, and I was kind of an early adopter of his what was then called parabroking, which is the packaging business in Xsource. Since then, I've just hired them all directly through myself through VA Platinum, which has been fantastic. I think I've referred about 100 brokers to them since then. COVID's a difficult one. We've been quite lucky here in terms of, containment and restrictions and whatnot. I know in the Philippines it's been even last week. My back office guys, there was one of the people in their office had COVID and had to get tested, and a lot of them are working from home. And when you compare what they're going through to what we're going through, it's light years apart. So the good thing about working with VA Platinum is they've got a whole training team and staff and management team that manages the staff for me over there. So, then the issues, take care of it, which enables me to focus on my business, but also have the support from them. If I'm hiring them directly, not through a third party, there's not a lot of control I ever have over restrictions, having to get clients set up at their homes, getting cabs for them to go get tested, sending them for their birthdays. Yeah, I think having a third party who helps you manage them overseas helps, because obviously I'm not over there, so it's almost impossible for me to do that.
Sure. Just a curiosity from my point of view, what country are they based in?
Philippines.
Philippines, right. Very good.
That's
excellent. I'm glad.
Source that they're all in the Serbia, I believe.
Okay. Very good. Yeah, time is ticking away as it always does. We better answer some questions here, otherwise we get into trouble. So sit back, relax, have a swig of whiskey. No, have some coffee, and we'll jump into these questions. Let me work with some of these. Sometimes some of the spelling and language isn't that easy. It's very interesting to get your take on this. Under the best interest duty, no charge on clawbacks is a direct threat to brokers' earnings. Now, it's actually not quite correct. The premise around clawbacks not being able to charge back to client is a spin-off from the Royal Commission, not anything to do with the best interest duty. So that's a Royal Commission outcome that was implemented by government. How are you going with any sort of clawback issues? Do you see a lot of it? You don't see a lot? Is it ebbs and flows? What's that like for you? Because now we can't charge a clawback back to a consumer borrower, and a lot of people didn't, but a lot of people did. So how'd that go in your world?
I'm very anti charging the client anything. So I think if you foster a great working environment with your client, you get along with them really well, you do a great job, the client's not going to leave you. Obviously, there's stuff outside your control. They might sell their property, they might get divorced, things like that. But no client, you shouldn't really be getting clawbacks, really, if you're doing a good job. It also has some really good process post-settlement as well, regularly checking in on clients, making sure that there's anything you can do to help them there. But you have no one to blame but yourself, in my opinion, if a client leaves you and goes somewhere else. So obviously, I think I'm 1.5%. I think it's quite low. I don't understand. Charging the client or having your client mandated to pay you if they leave you. I think that's basically saying to the client that they're trapped with you. I think if you provide a really top quality service, the client's not going to leave you. I've never understood the mindset of presuming the client's going to leave you and then being worrying about the client, the callback as a result of that.
Yeah, and that's a very fair position to take. I mean, some of the balance in the debates are obviously around things. There's a bit of old school in that where mandating was normal. As the decades, not just years, but as the decades have gone by, it's completely the reverse. But of course, yeah, because of the remuneration structure being the way it is with an upfront and trail, the trail is actually legally meant to be the upfront. It's just that it couldn't be funded that way by the bank, so they spread that over time. So people say, well, I'm actually owed it, and I've done the work. So I sort of get that as well. And if a life event happens, you know, somebody in the family passes away and they get an inheritance, or they win lotto, or they move overseas or interstate or something, I still don't believe brokers should be have the impost of a clawback, and never had. Yeah, where there's an unintended consequence like that, it's not the broker's fault. If you break the law, that's different. And if you keep your relationships good with your clients, you've got nothing to worry about because you stay close to them, as you're saying.
So, saying that though, I had a couple of instances where clients, you know, I had a client the other day who refinanced like 24 hours inside of a 12-month period, and the bank, I won't say what bank it was, but the bank wouldn't give me the clawback. Like, it was a 100% clawback, about $6,000 or something absurd, and they wouldn't pay me the clawback, even though they made $129,000 or whatever it was in interest. There are instances like that where it's a bit black and white, and it should be a bit more case by case view, I think. Look, the clawback, I just asked the client if they can refer me to a family and friend, or if they can leave me a review, or if there's something that they can do to benefit me. At the end of the day, it's a relationship game. So, you know, sometimes clients aren't aware that you, again, so up front, we let clients know when they settle that, you know, thank you for you know, trusting us with your finance. Just letting you know, if you refinance within a 12-month period, we get a call back. If you're thinking about changing banks, any concerns at all, please reach out back to us, and we're more than happy to take care of you.
Yeah, good move. And to me too, I mean, you know, if you need to work with a client to retain them, and it may be a rejig within the existing lender, you may not get more up front, but at least you keep your trail going. So it's sort of a protective measure in there at the same time.
I do think net of offset's a bit rough on this, but look, that's a completely separate conversation.
That's another conversation, yeah. I can't talk to you about that one, but we've probably run out of time today. But it is, but there's also some reasons as to why that eventuated. Whether or not we completely agree with them or not, that's another thing. And as we're talking, we're getting more questions come through, and I'm going to be lucky to get through these. Give me your thoughts on this. If you put a loan application in and it's submitted before the best interest duty started, we'll assume that the loan is settled. Then they come back to you for a loan increase now after bid. The question here is, can we amend the original compliance doc, or is it a new SOCR required?
Good question. I would always just do a new one. From that actually. We always do new compliance documents, whether it's a rework or anything, just to make sure that we're covered. We also make the client aware that yes, we can do an increase for you, but there might be some better options for you as well. So here they all are, and you can just let us know what you'd like to do. So I think a lot of clients think probably that their best option is just to do a loan increase, but often they can save some money by refinancing, and we always put those options together.
Yeah, and the question is a little bit limited, but I agree. You need to do a new statement of credit assistance. You've got to basically go back to the beginning again because of the you know, assuming it's not just a little top up, but at the same token, you're providing credit assistance to do that increase, and that means you need to really redo your compliance documents, especially if things have changed, or potentially if things have changed. I have two questions that's come through to us online, and I'll add these ones in now. Three questions. They're coming thick and fast. What social media advertising works best for you, if you do any?
Look, I don't do any advertising. I'm a heavy user of social media in general. You know, I use LinkedIn every day. I've got a big first-time buyer Facebook that I use every day as well. Use Instagram. I love social media. Probably over the years, have got at least 50% of my business from social media. I think for advertising, look, Facebook is great, really, if you know what you're doing. There's a lot of guys charging an arm and a leg that won't get you the results you want. I think if you can learn to do it yourself, it's a fantastic skill to have. But if I had to have a choice of a social media channel to advertise on, I would choose Facebook.
Okay. And what's your approach to your referral partners? You know, how do you approach them? What's that like?
As in like a value add, or how do I actually get them?
I guess, yeah, how to get them. You know, how do you go out? What is there a certain approach you take to referral partners?
I guess there's a couple of ways of going about doing it.
Or you just smile and look handsome.
Drive them. No. You know, just talking about agents as an example, because a lot of our business comes from real estate agents. I guess if you were wanting to look at doing, looking at doing clients in the Manly area, you go on, a website like Rate My Agent and find the best 10 agents in that area and just give them a call and go and have a meeting with them. The reality is a lot of the established agents already have referring partners. The younger guys who are normally doing what's called the OFI, open for inspection callbacks on a Monday and a Tuesday, are normally the younger guys working for them, and they're the ones that actually want to refer business to you. A financial planner is worth 10 agents. It's a bit of a rule of thumb.
There's a tip.
They're, wish someone had told me that when I started. They've already got clients. They're sending you the client to refinance with all their financials. So it's a very, very warm, hot lead. The quality of the client's normally a lot better as well because the type of client looking for financial advice is normally a little bit more established, and the loan size is a little bit more, a little larger. They might have multiple properties. It normally a bit better for you as a broker.
Okay, cool. And a question here from Tim asking, keen to hear about your handover from a client meeting to the research or packaging team. Do you use a software package, loan notes, templates, or a simple email? What's that handover look like? It's a very valid point.
It's pretty blunt. So when I started, I used to just get a client brief from clients. I quickly worked out that clients don't tell you everything. Not that they're trying to lie. A lot of them just aren't aware of their credit card limits or what's going on. So we ask for everything up front, all full financials, ID, everything. So once the client sends that back, I'll send an email to the packaging team saying, here's a bridging loan, these are the 4 lenders, give me the best 2 fixed rate and discounted variable X, Y, Z. I'm happy to, any brokers that are genuinely keen to understand the process, I'm more than happy to shoot them an email and show them the process that I do. I've got no issues helping other guys in the industry whatsoever.
Sure, and because I guess I can join you on LinkedIn as well. It's you're fairly prolific there, or email, whichever works. And questions come through, and don't qualify or quantify this because that's probably confidential for yourself. But do you pay your referral partners for the leads?
Yeah, I do. 25% of upfront usually. If it's an office, I might do a bit of trail as well. It's the same for everyone, I think, and I'm very upfront with that. With referring partners, there aren't any special treatments given to special referring partners. Everyone gets the same. At the end of the day, 75% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And as time goes on, you obviously get self-generated leads, you get referred from clients and that sort of thing, but it's a very easy way of getting leads when you're an up-and-coming broker or just getting some extra business. I don't understand why you wouldn't pay them. Obviously, some accountants and financial planners out of conflict of interest can't take referral fees, so I don't pay them. But look, yes, I would usually normally pay the referring partners unless they're not legally allowed to obtain that.
Complex. Yeah. Question here is, and you probably touched on this a bit earlier, but how big does your team need to be optimal? I think you mentioned there's a certain number of transactions a month that one person can handle. So some maths there.
Look, if you're doing 100 mil, you need two packages and a processor. If you're doing 150, you need 3 packages and 2 processors. If you're doing 200, you need 4 packages and 3 processors. I think as you add a staff member, you'll reach a point when your turnaround times start to get delayed. And that is a good indication of how much, how much business they can normally do. I've worked out over time, because we track everything. So, we have all the clients, how long it's taken to get back to them. That gives you a turnaround time. We have a percentage that outside that 48-hour turnaround time. We need to understand why they're outside that 48-hour time. Do we need to put on more staff? Do we need to streamline our process? Is there stuff we're double handling twice? There's a lot of learning over the years, but it's about 5 applications a month per packager, and then the processing team accordingly.
There you go. All right, there we are. There's some maths around it. I'm just going to jump in a couple. This one's actually directed back at me, I guess. It says here on the Elite Broker podcast not long ago, there was a stat saying 9 out of 10 brokers leave the industry within 2 years. Is that right? I can tell you now, as far as I'm concerned, it is not right. We track this fairly closely through our membership base. It is around 50% though, and it's not completely unusual to somebody who starts up in small businesses. But historically, and I say that for a reason, historically it was around 50% of people new to the industry. So not people who are coming from a bank and becoming a broker, but completely new to an industry. It used to run about 50%. We're actually revisiting that data as we speak. My inkling is that has come back, not increased to 9 out of 10. So I would be, I would not support the 9 out of 10 leave within 2 years. That wouldn't be right. Do you do any asset broking at all, Christian?
Carlos? No, I'm a big believer in just staying in my lane. I refer that to a guy who's fantastic, gets it back to them the same day. The reality is, anything like that I know someone can do better, I'm more than happy to refer them on to someone else.
Sure. No worries. I do have a couple of questions here about asset finance broking. I might leave that for another day. And I know my team's listening in the background, so I'll ask Mariah or May to tag those questions for another conversation for me. I've also been asked, is there any updates on the Combined Industry Forum and what they're doing or its role in 2021? There aren't any official updates at the moment from the CIF. It is reviewing its terms of reference, and it's done the vast majority of the work it was set up to do. But I can assure people that when there is a need to collaborate, there will be collaboration. That will be the lasting legacy of the CIF. But it's very exhaustive work and takes us also away from the work that we normally do as an association. So there's a balanced metrics coming out, and that's sort of all being spoken through and finalised at the moment. And I'm sure the CIF will have something official to say on that, because I'm not making an official comment, I'm not allowed to, but they'll say something more on that as time goes by, not too far away. Do you use any special system to retain clients? I know you mentioned the keeping in contact, but is there do you have mark their birthdays or Christmas, or do you do that sort of thing, or is there other things you do to?
There's a marketing automation lead flow that would reach out to them on their birthdays, 6-month annual review, fixed term expiring, and whatnot. That's automatically through AFG. I believe they offer that as an additional service. But look, we get the red alerts each month for clients who have their fixed term ending in the next couple of months. We'll reach out to them, let them know that it's expiring, put some refinance options together for them. But a lot of the clients always respond when they get an automated birthday message, presuming that I've sent them personally. But nothing outside the marketing automation, no.
All right. And a question has just come through. Do you think it's important for a broker to have a nice office with a big shop front, trying to get more business, I guess, walk by off the street? Not sure if the extra expense is necessary or works. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, look, I'm a big believer in first impressions count. I think you should dress well. I think your office should look the part. Just from a consumer's point of view, if I was to walk into an office, there's crap everywhere, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't give me a lot of confidence that the quality of my submission is going to be up to par. That being said, obviously don't go and spend your life savings decking out your office with marble floors and making it look incredible when it's not necessary. So I think you can have a nice front room and a nice office, so a nice meeting room. But, your whole office doesn't probably have to be up to that standard. There's obviously a customer-facing side to the office, and then there's a processing side, which is probably a little bit more manic. But
So do you feel it's an important thing to have an office, or does it work equally good being a broker who works from home and goes and sees their client and might have an arrangement with an office somewhere?
I was about to mention something about that. So obviously pre-COVID was probably a little bit more important. I actually went home when COVID started and worked from home for about 7 months. I absolutely loved it. Wearing the pajamas on the bottom half and the suit on the top half for all my face-to-face meetings. Look, I think these days most of our work can be done via phone and email, really. I'm a big believer in tech is the future. I think fintech will allow us to offer a faster, better product to the consumer. I do think that a lot of clients still like to meet face-to-face. But an answer to your question is no, I actually don't think you even need an office, really. I know a lot of very successful people work from home. You're obviously going and seeing clients face-to-face that are necessary, but probably the ones that I know that are doing the biggest numbers, most of them work from home.
So I guess that's the balance, is it? That probably most people can work from home, but if you're going to have an office, set it up the right way. Don't go overboard, but obviously the customer-facing piece needs to look right. Yeah.
It also depends where you are as well. Like if you're in a country town, having a little small office is probably a necessity because people want to come out and have a meeting with you. But if you're in the city, a lot of your clients are super busy. They don't have time to come in to see you anyway. It's better just to save some money, put that money into a back office team instead, and just work from home.
Yeah. And how did you deal with the, this is the question comes through, how do you deal with the continuing maintenance paperwork associated with more and more regulations and find time to train those that work under you, so that the team you've got? How do you find time to do all that? I guess you've got to invest some time to get some time.
Look, interestingly, I get the big question all the time about the extra paperwork and extra compliance. Most of the brokers I know are already doing that level of work before. It hasn't really been a lot of extra paperwork for us. Obviously, a little bit more compliance work, but that's just part of office support team. So we have a whole team here at Shaw that trains the back office support team. VA Platinum, who I use for my packaging, they actually have a full training management team that train up packages on everything they need to know, compliance-wise, and that sort of thing as well. So that's a full-time team that's at the disposal of any funds to give, I guess, guidance or information, answers to any questions that the staff have. I have very minimal contact outside of the day-to-day workings in terms of training with the clients. That's all provided by the third party, which is fantastic.
Yeah, very good. You spoke a bit earlier around SLAs, and I have a question here. It says, can we do anything as an industry to protect ourselves from SLA disparity? I don't know if you've got any thoughts there.
Look, SLAs are a difficult one. I do find it frustrating when a bank's SLAs are at 3 weeks and they bring out a ridiculously low fixed rate or cashback offer, which is only going to make things worse. I also think that most banks could easily keep their SLAs within a couple of days if they utilise the bank channels or branch channels more effectively. I also think that there are certain lenders that go out of their way to make sure that the broker channel is slower than branch, which is all I'll say on that matter. Look, SLAs are very difficult to. One day it's 4 days, and then they bring out a great rate, and the next day it's 15, and you lodged a deal when it was 4 days, and then by the time it gets picked up, it's now at 15. So it's very hard as a broker to manage client expectations, manage your workflow if the SLAs are changing on a regular basis. Yeah, look. But that being said, there are lenders that have had their SLAs the same 1 or 2 days for the last 2 years, and they've been fantastic. They work with the broker channel, responsive, the funds into tech and to processing to make sure that they deliver an optimal to us as brokers and ultimately to their clients.
I also think one of the things that everyone needs to remember is that the law doesn't state you have to have a major bank on your offering to a client. So,
No.
you know, it's not like you got to have one of the majors there as an offering, and if their SLAs are crap, then you got the right to make this, to look at what is in the best interest of the client, whatever that is. So it may mean take your business elsewhere. And so long as that's still, you're acting in the best interest of the client, then you're not doing anything wrong at all from that point of view. I agree with you. There are banks, and this is mainly the domain of the big four banks, this problem with SLAs and the disparity between branches turnaround time and their broker platform areas. And in the non-major banks, it's not so much, and in non-banks, it's not either. They're reliant on the distribution. And I agree. I think there are some banks that are deliberately trying to slow down the broker area in favour of their branches. And I dare say they're trying to prop them up. But that to me is anti-competitive, and I can tell you now I'm having that conversation with government at the moment. So I have very firm views on that little piece. I have a question here that says, what happens if there's a change of government federally, and what are you, me, FBAA doing to lobby government? And I'll answer that one on the way through. That as far as whoever is in opposition at any point in time, we are talking to both sides of politics, and the people who are near the top, if not at the top of oppositions, we are always in contact with. It varies in intensity as needs change, and of course, as we're heading into the current period, that intensity will increase. So, you know, I know the Shadow Treasurer there, Jim Chalmers, very well, and Jim's a good bloke, and a handful of people that sit there in Shadow Ministries who are relevant to us. So we continue that conversation and make sure we stay close to them as to what's happening. Unfortunately, when anyone's in Shadow Ministry, there's very little they can do for you. You have conversations, you try not to waste their time, but as things start to move around, those things intensify, because at any point in time, it's only those who in government can affect change. Sometimes the opposition can by blocking things if they're things that shouldn't happen, but generally speaking, it has its hoops and roundabouts. I have another question come through here. This person asks, I'm a new broker and new to being self-employed. As used to work for a large firm in the city that used to give them all their leads. I'm finding new referrals. I am new to finding referrals and networking. Do you have any advice on what to discuss with agents or planners who are prepared to meet with you? Is there any sort of subjects? Is there any sort of, I guess, any triggers that gets them all warm and friendly when you're talking to real estate agents or planners?
You've got to understand with a referring partner, you have to be a value add. So no one's going to want to do business with you if you're not adding value to their own business. So with agents, you know, a lot of aren't finance ready. They're capped with the amount that they can offer because they've just gone to their existing bank, not knowing that there's probably, you know, self-employed as an example is a fantastic one. Where they might have gone to a bank that takes the average of the 2 years and they can only borrow $1 million, but if they've taken their last year in isolation, they can borrow $5 million, and they have no idea about this. So I think being able to get fast turnaround times for the agents is key. Being able to get valuations and formal approvals issued in the cooling off period is fantastic for them. Also referring business back. So a lot of their clients will come to you to refinance, and while they're doing that refinance piece, they say, hey, what can I borrow? Is there enough money for us to refinance and upsell, or keep the property? And often they can't keep the property, have to buy a new one, but they want to then buy a property, and that referral for the sale would go back to the agent as an offering. Obviously, the client chooses whoever they want to go with, but just having an opportunity to get the door, the agents really appreciate that. When it comes to financial planners, it's more about just getting it done. You're an extension of their own service. So the financial planner wants to make sure that you're not going to botch their client's loan submission. And look, the first couple will be a bit, have this lead and let's see how you go. And then once you get a couple of notches under your belt, they will open up the doors for you. Let you do, information on the back of monthly owner statements for rent rolls, or they'll let you do information nights with their investors, or you know, there's a lot more that they'll allow you to do once you've built up that trust with the referral partner.
All right, excellent, excellent. So, mate, time is slipping away for us a little bit, and I might see if you can answer this last one for us, and that is, what are the 3 most important pieces of advice you can give a new broker? You might want to think on that a little bit.
Honest. I think when you start as a broker, you say yes, yes, yes to everything, not understanding how long things take to get done, not understanding what's required to get a loan done. You know, these days I can just look at a client brief and pretty much say if it's going to work or not, really. But when you start, there's a lot of me wanting to impress the agent or wanting to impress the client, which in reality wasn't going to happen, and you just look like an idiot. I think it's just, you know, get all the information up front and then come back to a client with the answer, rather than just an answer on the phone, telling them what they want to hear. Make sure you do your research first and come back with the actual correct answer. Another piece of information would be join the Finance and Coffee Facebook page. I think it's a great tool to, you know, workshop deals, meet other people in the industry, get some advice on stuff. You know, it's been fantastic for me still to this day. Now, if I've got a weird one about, you know, a company title of 90% or a bridging loan with no end debt or something I need some clarity on, if I just type in the search bar, the Finance and Coffee page, is obviously some answers there, and off the back of that, I'll go and approach the BDMs for those banks and just double check again, obviously, if it's still valid. But it's a great way to get the information you want without annoying the guys in your office if they're super busy.
Excellent, mate.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go on. Sorry, I got a bit of a delay there, so I missed.
Outsource the loan processing as quick as possible. I think there's so many brokers that spend all this time doing the processing, thinking they're saving money, but in reality, all they're doing is hamstringing themselves and making sure that they don't have any more time to go out and get new referring partners. So I think if you're spending your whole time processing loans, you're actually not building your business at all.
Very, very good words of advice, except you missed the most important piece of advice, and that is make sure you join the FBAA as your association.
You should have given me that one before we
Christian,
started.
mate. Buddy, thanks so much for joining us today, Christian, on today's episode. It's been wonderful having you, and some great words of wisdom and advice that you've given everyone who's joined us today. Really appreciated your candor and your sharing with that. And mate, I look forward to chatting to you again really soon. So I'm sure we'd like to hear a lot more from you and your journey, and more pearls of wisdom that you can give. All right, you take care, mate.
I really appreciate the time. And just one last point, if any brokers want to reach out to me for any clarity on stuff or want to understand a bit more, I guess, about the process, I'm more than happy to make some time.
Very good. Excellent. All right, well, I'll let you go, and I'll finish off on the last couple of points here, but thanks, mate, and all the best.
Bye.
All right, everybody, we'll finish up. A couple of things to remember. If you're in Sydney on the 30th of April, I'm going to be speaking at the IFBF meeting over in Parramatta. So 30th of April in the morning, you'll catch me there. And if you want to ask me more questions, you can whilst I'm there. And of course, the other thing that you must attend is the FBAA National Industry Conference, held Friday, the 30th of July, here on the Gold Coast in Queensland at SeaWorld, face to face. We're expecting about 1,000 people to attend, all doing it COVID friendly. And make sure you get there. Come to the conference and come along to IFBF. They're great people. We'll have a chat there as well. I've got to run, unfortunately. I've got to go have my first COVID jab. Happy days. And unfortunately, I won't be able to be around next session of Q&A with Whitey. They've already amended the logo. Look at that, and the head. Q&A with Mark Windrum. Put his head on the symbol, and I'll have a word to him about that. That's okay. Mark, our state president in Western Australia, is very kindly going to hold the conversation for us when next we meet on the 20th of May. Make sure you join us. We're going to be talking about SME lending. All right, a very important subject. Lots of opportunities there. Make sure you chime in for it. There'll be Stuart Donaldson, John and Trent that'll also be there as well, who be able to share their advice and guidance around how you lend to SMEs, talking financial statements, why the market's so important, and the key differences between business and consumer lending. Great conversation, that one. Unfortunately, I won't be there. But anyhow, enjoy. thank you once again. Don't forget, you'll get a little survey after this, and you get 1 CPD point for joining us. And thanks again to our sponsors who, once, as I said before, will look after us in a very, very kind and wonderful way. Anyhow, trust you have a great rest of the week, and look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye for now.